Wow, this video here with the interview with Swin Nader was a real treat for me because I'm a huge basketball fan and I respect Swin as a basketball player, coach, and an author. In this interview, he's going to talk about his childhood, growing up in Holland, coming to the United States, not playing basketball or organized until he was in college, and then his time at UCLA with John Wooden and Bill Walton, and then winning two championships in college, and then finally making it to the ABA and the NBA and being the leading rebounder in both leagues. When he finished his playing career, Swin went on to be a college basketball coach for 10 years from 85 to 95, where he won a national championship as a coach. Since then, he's worked at Costco as an executive. He's also written two books, Playing Big, which I think he knows about, being 6'11 and a former center in the NBA. And then also another book is You Haven't Taught Until They've Learned, which he took the teachings that he learned from John Wooden and put that into a book. So anyway, I'm really excited about this. I hope you are too. And this was just a real complete pleasure for me to interview Swin. Let's watch it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, and when I was doing some research on you, I realized that when Bill Walton got traded to San Diego, and then I did realize that you could have ended up in Portland, but Jack Ramsey chose Kevin Cooner, and so I thought that was interesting, because
Yeah.
I'm a big Blazer fan, and I thought, wow, I would have been rooting for you.
Yeah, those are some good days, especially when Walton was there. It was one of the most important player on a team is the point guard. You could see that in the NCAA finals, and you usually see that, in the NBAs, because they direct the team to their first line of defense. And if they do a good job, they're getting the ball where it's supposed to go and setting up the plays and kind of the leader. And but when Walton was center at Portland, he was the leader. Everything went through him. He came and got the ball. They passed it to him. They cut, split. And he was the leader on defense. He was talking and helping people out. So he's the best college center I've ever seen all around. Even better than Kareem, I think.
Wow, that's saying a lot. Yeah, and you played against all these guys too.
Yep.
So, okay, I want to start off like back at your beginning. Okay, and it's 1959. You're 9 years old, and can you give us the story of how you went from an orphanage in Holland to a Beverly Hills hotel?
Okay, well, let me start from birth to the orphanage. Real quick. I was born in the Netherlands, way up on the west side, the northwest side. Nice area, kind of a resort area. So my dad and mom had money. My mom and dad divorced when I was 3 years old. And in those days, the woman got nothing, no money, but she got the kids. So that was a problem, right? She couldn't afford to support all three of us. So she kept my little brother with her, and my sister and I went to a friend's house, a good friend of hers, a real strict lady. She washed my mouth out with soap. I remember that more than one occasion. So she couldn't do it anymore. So we went to a foster home and well, let me back up. While we were at that lady's house living there, my mom and now my stepfather came over with my little brother and said, we're going to America. And I got really excited because I knew that Roy Rogers was in America, and I knew I was going to meet him because I wanted to be Roy Rogers. I wanted to be a cowboy. If no one remembers Roy Rogers, it was the Roy Rogers and Dale Evans show, and it was a shoot 'em up, whodunit Western. But I didn't know this guy was in Hollywood, and he probably had a big house. But anyway, so, but my mom and dad said they're going to take my little brother with them, and my sister and I would stay behind. So, and they would, in a year or so, they would, have enough money to bring us over. Well, they had a sponsor, right, in America. And in those days, you had to have a sponsor to make sure you made it. And so that's why they couldn't bring the three kids over, because they had, you're less likely to make it if you have to support three. But anyway, the years went, so we went to orphanage, foster home, about 3 foster homes, and finally ended up in an orphanage. And this was 5 years, how many years later? 5 years later, yeah, 5 or 6 years later, when all of a sudden in the orphanage, we were called to the front office, and there was a lady there sitting in a chair, and then of course you had the director, and she had a uniform on. I didn't know at the time, but it was she was a flight attendant, right? That was a chaperone. So what had happened was this family that sponsored us, they were in Phoenix, Arizona. And that's where my mom and stepdad and my little brother settled first, but then he got a job in Southern California, Long Beach area. So he went over there, but they realized that it was never my stepdad's intention to bring my sister and I over, because he had money, he had 2 cars, and my mom, of course, she wanted us all together, and so this guy didn't want that. So they went to a television show by the title of "It Could Be You." Now, if anybody remembers "This Is Your Life," that was a long ago. Also, "It Could Be You" was probably the forerunner of "This Is Your Life." It was a show of surprises, they called it, and so, if they see that somebody has a real big problem, their house burned down, or their husband died, or something, they would get them to the show somehow with a free ticket, get them in the audience, and they didn't know why they were there, and they'd be called up to the stage, and there would be the surprise, right? Possibly a new house or something. Well, this is what happened. The Andersons, the family, the sponsor family, went to "It Could Be You," and my sister and I were flown over by this chaperone flight attendant in 1959 to New York, and then from New York to LA, and then to the Beverly Hills Hotel. Now, I went from the orphanage to the Beverly Hills Hotel in less than 2 days, right? So this is pretty cool for me, but where's Roy Rogers? I couldn't find him anywhere. He was close by, I think, but I didn't see any prairies or barns or old towns like we saw on TV in Holland once a week in the neighborhood where I was staying when I was in one of the foster homes. There was one TV in the whole neighborhood, and all the kids were allowed to come on Wednesday night and see the Roy Rogers show. That's the only show we ever saw. That's where I got my thing. But anyway, I forgot about Roy Rogers pretty soon, because it was pretty cool. So we practiced for the show, and then my mom and dad were given free tickets, and the Andersons, that sponsor family, picked them up and took them to the studio, and they were in the audience. They got called up. My sister and I came out of a windmill, and my stepdad was very, very, very angry that this had happened. You wouldn't think so, right? But he was, yeah. And for the next 9 years, it was a lot of abuse going on at the house, a lot of physical, slugging, hitting, cold shower. I was never allowed to take a warm shower, not even any warmth in the shower, always cold water. And if he went in there and checked it and there was warmth in the water, he'd beat the crap out of you right there in the shower, all that kind of stuff. Never sent me to a dentist. By the time I left home, which was 19, I had 3 molars that were just down to nothing. And so luckily my junior college coach had a dentist who did all that for free. He did about $20,000 of work for free on my teeth. But yeah.
Did that experience, being under your stepfather's rule, did that impact you later in life by maybe having more empathy or seeing people's points of view more? Or, was there anything that you got out of that I know it's a terrible situation, but anything that, that was helpful at all?
Well, never to be like that.
Okay.
That definitely was it. I felt the pain, and I didn't want anybody else to feel that pain. It wasn't like it happened to me, so I have to do it to somebody else. I guess that happens.
Yeah.
Because that's what you saw. That's what you experienced. But I only experienced that for 10 years. You know, before that, there was a lot of love in my life. My real dad was a very loving man. And I had love, you know, there was love in the foster homes and the orphanage. There was, but I got here and, you know, one of the things that really made a difference for me was when I went to Cypress College, and I never played high school basketball. My stepdad wouldn't even let me try it out for the team. I actually tried out once, but the coach didn't want me. I was the tallest kid in the school, and he didn't even want me on the team. I was that bad. And I wasn't one of the, you know, one of those people, the rich. It was a school where there was a lot of rich kids. I had to walk from my neighborhood about, oh gosh, it was 2-3 miles, I think, back and forth. But at Cypress College, when I walked on campus, the assistant coach, Tom Lubin, whose uncle was Frank Lubin, the center on the first United States Olympic basketball team in 1936, the Jesse Owens Olympics, we call it. Tom Lubin asked me if I wanted to play basketball. And I said, yeah, I would, but I don't think my stepdad's going to let me. He said, let me take care of that. So he showed me the hook shot, right? And I shot 500 hook shots a day. And somehow Tom Lubin talked my stepfather into letting me on the team. But I sat the bench the whole year. Before I finish that, let me just go back to your question. Did it affect me? Oh, I'm sure it did. Everything affects you, right? I think it affected me in a positive way. I do. I you know, I'd never been a father before, obviously, and so I figured, okay, that's not the way you do it. He never really helped me with anything. He never showed me how to balance a checkbook. He never, if he was repairing something, he would never include me in it. We were just, kids were out of the way. Don't bother me. Get in your room. We weren't allowed to just walk around the house. We were never allowed to sit in the living room itself on the couch or anything. Never. No, the little ones, yeah, his real kids, there were 3 boys. Yeah, they could be there, but I wasn't able to go. So, you know, we were pretty much out of the way. He never raised me. Yeah, other than just beat me. Yeah. I'm sure there were times, you know, when we went fishing, I think a few times, took us fishing down in Long Beach, and, you know, that was okay. I'm sure there were more times that were good than I remember. But I do remember a lot of just, he didn't like me.
Yeah.
In fact, so when I started playing basketball, now did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did. Absolutely.
Okay. So should I go on with the
Yeah, continue on. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So now I'm in my first year at Cypress, and I'm sitting the bench. I'm terrible, but I've been working at it, you know, like Coach Wooden always says, I will get myself ready and then my chance may come. Failing to prepare is preparing to fail. I wanted to be ready for a chance, right? Now, my dream was to be a Laker. When I was living at home, my stepdad, you know, if he found out I had a little transistor radio underneath my pillow when I was falling asleep, listening to Chick Hearn call the games with Wilt Chamberlain, Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, Pappy Hairston, Gail Goodrich, he would have beat the crap out of me. But I don't think he ever heard it. I had it on so low, but I would literally fall asleep listening to Chick Hearn and then dreaming of being a Laker. I dreamt of being a Laker. And Wilt Chamberlain was my hero. So I tell people that I dreamt of being a Laker, and when I woke up, I started working on it. And I did, because I was always playing basketball. You know, when my stepdad wasn't around or something, during the summer, he'd be off to work. My brother and I would go down and just shoot, you know, pretending to be Jerry West, pretending to be Wilt Chamberlain.
Yeah,
So,
you talk about like players are made in the driveway, with your imagination and creativity, and that's been a big part of your, yeah, at least from my take, your early success. Like because you didn't have a lot of these, you didn't play in the high school team, but you could still imagine, you could still use your creativity.
oh man, my imagination is good. And I'm sure everybody's imagination is good. You know who had the greatest imagination that we know of? Albert Einstein. He has some quotes about that, but it's to the effect that everything starts with imagination. Everything starts with, I wonder if, right? I mean, these kids today, they're so good at computers and this, it's natural for them. Um, they, they go, oh, I can do that. But then they start asking, I wonder if I do this. I wonder, and then Bill Gates and Paul Allen, they used to sneak out of the house all night. They found a key or something to the lab where they could start programming things on UW's computers. They went in. Nobody knew they went in for months, and they started programming. They dreamt it. They probably said, I wonder what happens if you do this. I wonder what happens if you do that. I wonder how you do that. Some of us older people go, nah, I don't think that's possible. But the kids say, man, I wonder if, and that's what you do when you're playing 1-on-0, one against a player that you know. It could be anybody. I chose somebody that was quick, or Will Chamberlain when I got bigger, see if I could fake him out. For hours and hours and hours and hours. And how do people that are listening have a son or a daughter that they wish would do that, right? You do it by example. You go out there if you can, and you say, well, I'm playing against such, and he thinks I'm going to shoot the outside shots. I'm just going to give him a little fake. I'm gone. Oh, I got him, man. I got him, And then you come back and you do it again. So he thinks I'm going to drive. Double fake. Got him. Oh, he's over there. Wow. Got it. Those things transfer into real play.
Yeah, I totally agree with you because I remember growing up watching Kiki Vandeweghe when he was on the Denver Nuggets and then later with the Blazers, and he would make certain moves and I would go out in the driveway and kind of pretend I was him or pretend I was doing that move,
Yeah.
and like you're saying, having someone guard me, and it was just a lot of fun. Hours could go by and you didn't even realize it.
Yeah, Kiki was quite an offensive player. He had that step back that nobody had really seen that done that well before. Earl the Pearl Monroe had a step back, but that was years before. But Kiki kind of perfected it, and it ended up being called for many the Kiki move, right? And I think that's what you're talking about. But then you can do the Kiki move, which is a step back fake, and then you drive again. You just keep reading the defense, and yeah, you pretending to be Kiki, they can't do anything but help you, right?
Yeah, and that's in the book Playing Big with you and Pete Newell. You guys go over all those moves.
Yeah, and if you were to go to one of Pete Newell's camp, Pete Newell passed away, several years ago. Yeah. I was able to help him write that book, Playing Big, months before he died. I was so happy that I was able to do it for him to preserve some of the things that he believed in. But but he ran these big man camps for some of the best big men in the country, and he would. God, you'd have a plethora of moves, just fakes that. Okay, let's add this to it. Let's add that to it. And so, you're never going to use all those moves. You might use one. But the fact is, you were doing it. You were imagining, because he had you imagine, okay, now what if this guy comes at you? Then give it a little this, and then go, right? Lean back a little bit and go. But don't lose your balance because you want to go forward, right? Just make them think you're going back, and then dive, right? Put your shoulder past his hip and go, that kind of thing. And so you would just doing this, and you'd practice great footwork for a week, 5 days, 3 hours a day or so, maybe more hours. I don't know. I went through one of them. I don't remember. And you play some one-on-one, but mostly You know, it's just magic. So the formula for me was play against the imaginary pro, play one-on-one against somebody better, and take that into a team situation, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, 5-on-5. You know, everybody talks about teamwork, and Coach Wooden talked about teamwork, and UCLA was the best team I'd ever been on of any kind. No one cared who got the credit. Everybody joyed in a great pass rather than an individual move. But yet, basketball is one-on-one. It's a lot of one-on-one, and the kids that can't go one-on-one end up being those kids that are most inspirational, or everybody talks about, wow, he's unselfish. See, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be most inspirational, and I don't want to get an award for being the most unselfish. I want to score, right? And so you got to work on scoring against people, and no matter what size you are, you can do that with that formula. Just start out 1-on-0 and play against somebody, right? When you play against someone 1-on-1, that'll tell you what you need to go back to the driveway with, to practice, right? And eventually you take that into a 5-on-5 and it'll happen. Now, you know, you beat somebody, and then of course you have somebody else that's going to pick you up and try to guard you. So you work on that stuff. But without the driveway, you're just going to be a player that everybody says, wow, he was really a nice guy.
This next question here, it's like Rick Barry was really successful shooting the underhanded shot, and you were successful with the hook shot, Kareem with the sky hook, Bill Walton had the jump hook. I mean, there's been a lot of people that have had a hook shot, but it's just never really taken off, just like Rick Barry's underhanded shooting's never taken off. Why do you think that is when it's so effective?
Well, when you talk about Rick Barry's underhand shot, that was his free throw.
Yeah.
Now, he didn't shoot, he had a jump shot.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But back in the day, when Coach Wooden was in high school and college, everybody shot underhand free throws because it was and still is the most effective way. I mean, you think about it. You got two hands on the ball and you're throwing it up. You can put natural backspin on it. It never goes in front of your eyes, whereas a shot like this temporarily blinds you, right? And it's much easier to keep your balance when your hands are down here than up here. So a little bit off balance, and that shot could be short or long or right or left. And so your follow through is perfect, just like this. And I've shot him before like that. And had I practiced, had somebody talked to me earlier in my career about shooting that way, I would have practiced and shot him that way. And Coach Wooden said that was absolutely the best way to shoot him. And Coach Wooden would know because he set the record for, in college back then, of consecutive made free throws in games. And it was something, 100 and something, 110, 120 in a row.
That's impressive.
Yeah. Now, okay, going back to that. Repetition is the key to learning. I shot 500 hooks a day. My right-handed hook was better than my left, obviously. So I shot right hand, left, kind of in a figure eight. I just kept shooting. And my right hand would teach my left hand how to shoot. And after a while, when you start doing this over and over again, you start figuring out what's working and how things work and the details. For example, I figured out that when I shot my hook shot, my one-footed hook shot, that I should release it before I reach the top of my jump for two reasons. One, it's quicker. And two, your body momentum goes into the ball and makes it much easier to release. And you can worry more about the touch than getting it there, right? Okay. Why do people not shoot hook shots? There are people who shoot hook shots today of some form or another. A lot of people shoot a big guy shoot a jump hook. They jump at 2 feet and there's a place for that, especially after you get a rebound, an offensive rebound, to put it right back in. But as far as the individual move, the one-handed hook shot, like Kareem, the 1 foot hook shot jump is much quicker. You get much more elevation on it, and you can distance yourself from the defense by taking a long step. When you jump with 2 feet, you're pretty much going into the defense and trying to shoot over. But when you take the long step, you're shooting by the person and quicker. And it's always better to shoot by somebody than to try to shoot over them. But why do people not do it? There's theories like it's not cool. It's too old school. I think for me, see, it was already old school when the time I started, right? I mean, Kareem ended up coming in, but nobody was shooting a hook shot like Kareem. Nobody. I think Russell shot a little left-handed hook shot at times, and he was okay with it. And that was the way. And of course, George Mikan, way before that, he had a great little hook shot. And Frank Lubin, the All-American, Tom Lubin's uncle, had a great right and left, and that's where Tom learned it from, and Tom passed it to me. But I think if you learn it young, then I think you'll see the benefit of it. You can't see the ball right when you shoot a hook shot. Where a jump shot, you can kind of see where it is. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's it. But I think if you start early, and they don't teach it. And why don't they teach it? Because the coaches have never shot it themselves. Coach Wooden taught it. We were shooting hook shots. Walton had a hook shot. I had a hook shot. We were taught it in practice. Now, Walton didn't use it that much in a game, and Drollinger, after us, didn't use it much in a game. He was more of a jump shooter, but Coach Wooden taught it. So the teacher's not teaching it, the kids are not learning it.
We're going to get to your book here, and that's part of that there. To go back to when you were at the community college and you started having success at the end of the season, and then I think you said that the community colleges would play the freshman team because the freshmen at four-year universities couldn't play. And how did you go? How did you decide to go to UCLA when Wooden told you that you're not going to be the starter? What was your mind?
Yeah, well, we got to help everybody catch up from the end of my sophomore year at Cypress College to the UCLA thing. Okay. Because obviously UCLA wasn't going to recruit me if I'm terrible.
Yeah.
But in my freshman year, toward the end, 2 games to go in the regular season, the starting center got in foul trouble, and coach put me in. We weren't going to win the league anyway, so he put me in, and I had a great game. I had 15 points, 10 rebounds, blocked the other center shot a couple times, started fast breaks. And people were going, whoa, because I only played about 10 minutes, 15 points. And then the next game, which was the last game of the season, he put me in, and I had 20 points and probably 15 rebounds, something like that. But that was the end of the season. And then I started lifting weights, and then my assistant coach, Tom Lubin, drove me into the ghettos of LA, into the inner city, and just took me there and just fed me to the wolves. I was the only white guy in the gym every single weekend. And at first nobody wanted me, but then I got better and better. And pretty soon, after, about halfway through the summer, everybody wanted me on their team. Because we win, when you win, you stay, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you lose, you're out for a while.
Out for a while, yeah. And if you're not very good and you lose, then nobody wants you. You might as well go home. So, yeah, so I had a summer league, and then, of course, the next year practice, and then the first game of the season was against the number 1 ranked team in the nation. I mean, in the California, with the number 1 center, and I beat him. I beat him bad, and I hit 2 free throws to win the game. Then the articles in the paper and about me and stuff from my stepdad got very, very upset and told me to quit the team. And that's when the next day I left home with some clothes and stuff and never came back. Never really came back. So one of the things, now my junior college coach, Don Johnson, had played for John Wooden in the 50s. He was in fact, he was an All-American guard for him at 6'4". I mean, really, that's a tall guard in those days, right? That's a decent guard today. But yeah, he was pretty quick and was really tough. And so Don Johnson calls at the beginning of the season, or before my sophomore year, he calls John Wooden and says, "Can we arrange a game, against your freshman team?" So they arranged it, and we went to Pauley Pavilion, UCLA's home court, and played the preliminary game before the varsity game. And I had a really good game. I had like 30 points and about 25 rebounds. And so Coach Wooden, I got recruited by all the major universities in the country, and UCLA, of course, being one of them because they were the best. They were winning championships. And John Wooden, on my visit, he said, "I'm not going to promise you a starting spot because you're not going to get it." He said, "I want you to be Bill Walton's backup, but I can promise you this. You're going to play against the best center in the country every day in practice. And you're going to play against the best team in the country every day in practice. And we do a lot of playing in practice." He said, "You'll get your experience, and with your body type and the way you're filling out," he said, "I think you have a chance to go professional if that's what you want." And I said, "Coach, I dreamt of being a Laker, I gave up the Roy Rogers thing. I want to be a basketball player." So I think it was a very wise decision that I went to UCLA.
Yeah, well, the history is it's proven that was a great choice. I mean,
Yep. Yep.
You have a couple presentations. One is on how to be a winning championship team, like the UCLA, and then another one is about rebounding and how to overcome obstacles or how to adapt to change. Because what I've looked at, number one is assume every shot is missed in terms of rebounding. Number two, get your hands up, get in position. And three, go get the ball. Can you talk about that and also like the basketball aspect, but then also the life aspect?
Of those three things?
Yeah, if I'm understanding you right, because you have a presentation.
Oh, yeah.
You have a presentation that you do.
Yeah. That's one of my keynote addresses is how we relate. So I learned that, and I learned, and this is the way I thought when I was playing ball. I wanted to be the best rebounder, and I figured if I tried to be the best rebounder, I was going to be very valuable to my team. And I learned that the three most important things in sequence, in order, for becoming a best rebounder, besides, having the body and the quickness and all the physical stuff, it's the mental stuff, is assume every shot is missed, get your hands up, and go get the ball. And if you look at any player that's not rebounding like he or she should, the problem is always one of those three things. You assume that the shot is going to be missed. If you assume the shot is going to be made and then it's missed, you're out of position. You missed out. It's too late. And then you get your hands up. That is, you're getting in position, right? You're getting in position to go to get the ball. So you're shooting shots missed, you figure out where it's going to bounce, and you get your hands up. And then this is maybe as important as anybody else. It's actually going for the ball. Usually there are more than one player going for a rebound. It's the one who is aggressive and that's the opportunity. You get it, you grab it, right? You grab it away from somebody else. You get it first. You be assertive, right? Initiative, proactive. Those are the three things, and it worked. They worked for me. Now, there was a time when I thought, you know what, that's kind of life in a sense, as far as getting ahead and making the most of yourself is first. You know, whereas in rebounding, you assume every shot is missed. I think in life, you assume things are going to go, the change is going to happen, right? A missed shot is change. It was supposed to go in, but it didn't. That's change. You may not like it, but hey, it happens. And you have to assume it happens. Now, I'm not saying buy into Murphy's Law and, you know, that if something goes wrong, it will. I don't want to live that way. But I'm a realist too. That, you know, things are going along smooth. Look at what happened with us with this this Chinese virus thing. That nobody thought that was possible, right? And all of a sudden, there we are. Change. Were we prepared? No. But we should have been prepared for something like that. You should assume, and we should assume that can happen again. How are we going to handle that again, right? So you do that. And it's like a little extra money in the bank for emergencies. And that's what you do. You assume every shot is missed, and you assume change is going to happen, and you figure out, okay, what change could happen? And you just kind of get prepared for it. And then you get your hands up. That's getting ready, right? That's making the first move toward the ball. So when the rebounding, I've got my hands up. I'm actually moving in position. I'm getting myself in position to go get that basketball. And in life, you know, if you're trying to get ahead, you assume things are going to go wrong. And when something changes, you start moving toward that new direction, right? Look how many businesses failed during this Chinese virus. It's they weren't prepared. Restaurants weren't prepared. If you're McDonald's, yeah, you got the drive-through and all that stuff, right? And that picked up. But if you're a restaurant, what did you do? Some restaurants, they said, okay, what are we going to do? All right, we're going to order all these supplies, all this to-go supplies. We're going to change the menu. We're going to change our hours. We're going to order more food, this and that. And we're going to say, okay, phone it in. We're going to have online menus. We're going to use that QR code make it easy for people so that they will come to us, right? That's getting your hands up and getting in position. And then the going to get it is actually, if you're the restaurant with that analogy, is to go put that out there, you know, and advertise. And those are the ones that end up making it. So as far as my basketball career, I had a plan. I had a plan that in 5 years, I had to make the pros. Mm-hmm. And I worked on my jumping. I got up to a 34-inch vertical from pretty much nothing. I always tell people, I'm white, but I'm slow. I'm white, but I can't jump. But I was able to change that. And my quickness and the 500 hook shots a day and the playing in the driveway and the playing, all of that. I had a plan, but I knew something could go wrong, right? Now, not much did. But actually, one thing that went kind of wrong was I went to UCLA and played behind Bill Walton. I didn't get to play. That could have really hurt me, right? But like the restaurant owners that were innovative and got on the stick, I said, okay, I'm going to make the best of this situation. I'm not going to switch schools. And I was the second best center in the country, playing behind Bill Walton. I made the most of it, and there were times when I almost gave up, but I got it back together, and I started just tearing up in practice, tearing up to the point where Coach Wooden actually started putting me in the game during the real deal. And so I went and got it. And so when I'm talking too much, but there were two opportunities I had when I was working really hard at UCLA, And one was the Olympic trials, where Coach Wooden got me into the trials by talking them into it. They didn't like him. They didn't like UCLA, but they said, okay. I ended up leading that trials in scoring. Those are the best players in the country, college players. And then at the end of my senior year, he got me into the Pizza Hut All-Star Game, which featured the best players in the country that were seniors. And I got MVP of that game. So that's going to get the ball, right? There was the opportunity. I didn't say, oh, no, I don't want to do that. Those guys are too good. No, I'm going to get my butt kicked. I'm going to sit the bench. You know, and possible I would have sat the bench. But you know what happens? What happened was in that Pizza Hut game, the starting center got hurt in practice, hurt his back, and I played the whole game. I got MVP.
Wow.
So that's the rebounding thing. Assume every shot is missed, get your hands up, go get the ball. Is assume change is going to happen, get in position, and then opportunities will come. Because the harder you work, the luckier you get.
Yeah.
I will get myself ready, and then my chance may come. And I was lucky that I had good advice, and I was able to do that.
One thing, like with the UCLA situation, I remember reading a quote where you had a conversation with John Wooden in his office about, you know, wanting to be better than Bill Walton. And he basically said, you know, for you to be a first-rate Swin Nader, you know, for you to be the best you can be. Was that a turning point at all in some of that mindset thinking?
Yeah. Coach Wooden, I don't know how many of the people are listening know that John Wooden created a pyramid of success. You can look that up. It's a pyramid with 15 blocks that if you work on the blocks, you can become successful. But his definition for success is the peace of mind, which is a direct result of the self-satisfaction in knowing you made the effort to become the best of which you are capable. And although Coach Wooden never showed us the pyramid when we played for him, never gave us a definition, it was there as far as us practicing and trying to become the best we can be. He never mentioned the word win once, because it wasn't about winning. It was becoming the best we could possibly be, and the winning would take care of itself. Well, you know, when I first came to UCLA, I knew that I wasn't a starting center in any other college. I mean, I probably could have been in some schools or many, I don't know, because I had a really good sophomore year. But I was at UCLA, and I knew that, you know, and then when I started playing against Bill Walton, who was fresh out of high school, but so good. And I didn't have a chance against him. He was blocking my shots and scoring on me whenever he wanted to. It was embarrassing, right? And that was so I redshirted that first year, which means you can practice, but you don't play, so you don't lose eligibility. So I had to save 2 years eligibility. And then Walton became a freshman, a sophomore, and I became a junior. And it was another year of the same, although I got a little bit better. But when I got to be a senior and Walton was a junior, I gave him everything he could handle, right? But and during that year, when I was playing pretty well in practice, I went to Coach Wood, and you know, and people were telling me, well, this guy's the second best center in the country. I went to Coach Wood in his office, and I said, any chance I can get into the game? He said, no. He says, but I'll give you some advice. He said, quit trying to be like Bill. You've got your own talent. You're a heck of a rebounder. You're really aggressive. You got good jumping ability. You're strong. He said, work on what you do best. Be the best Swin Nader you can be. You've got a hook shot. Bill's got a turnaround jumper. Your turnaround jumper is not going to be as good as Bill's, but your hook shot is very, very dangerous. A very good weapon. Work on it, which I had been. But I said, he you know, gave me a couple of quotes like, I will, I am me, I'm the best me there is. I will always be a second best somebody else. George Moriarty, one of the great major league umpires of our time, was also a poet. He wrote The Road Ahead or The Road Behind. And in that poem, he said, "For who can ask more of a man than giving all within his span? Giving all, it seems to me, is not so far from victory." And those kind of, that thought of, concept of trying to become the best that you can possibly be. You wonder how they do it. You look to see the knack. You watch the foot in action or the shoulder or the back. But when you spot the answer where the higher glamours lurk, you'll find in moving higher up the laurel-covered spire that the most of it is practice and the rest of it is work. It's just hard work at trying to become the best that you can be. And so he said, "Swen, you've been valuable to us. And if you just try to become the best you can be, you're going to give Walton even more of a challenge. And we need that in order to win this thing." So I said, "You got it, Coach." Well, I got noticed, as you know, and got to the Pizza Hut All-Star game and all that. So it all worked out for me.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. And it's such a great story to show that if you have the belief in yourself and you're willing to put in the work, and even though you might not have the opportunity right now, how you want it, it ends up good if you keep doing what you're pursuing and you keep staying with it and you have a positive attitude and you're putting in the work.
Yeah. Everybody's heard that before.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
we've all heard the turn lemons into lemonade and work hard. But what does that mean? And why do you do it? I'm a magician. I'm not going to do a card trick for you, but I play around with these cards a lot, right? I've got a jack over here and a jack over there, right? I'm just going to give this thing a cut. And I made a cut, but nothing changed. I've still, but it looked like a cut. And this looks like a cut. If I were to put that down, but nothing's changed. And shuffling, you can, if you've got a jack of hearts on top, and then you shuffle, and you practice this, and then just throw it on to make a cut like this, nothing's changed. It's these things that I practice over and over again. But when you practice over and over again, the same thing, you're doing this, and you're doing this, and then you do it without looking. And then sometimes you mess up. You go, "I wonder why I messed up. I wonder why that card fell out. That card fell out. Or that card turned over." And then see, like there's a mess up. Why was that? Well, let's see. Maybe I'm not putting them in there. Maybe I'm not grabbing them right. And you start fiddling around with things. And when you shoot 500 hook shots a day, you start fiddling around for things. You start working on little things. Oh, like I said, shooting on the way up. Oh, that worked better. And, this is what all the great people did anything, is repetition. But most people stop at a certain point because there's no reward. It's those who keep going, knowing that at some point, something magical is going to happen. Those are the ones that figure it out, and they become great instead of good. So why work and why do the same thing over and over again? It's that magical moment that comes along where you just discover something that no one's discovered before. Or maybe few have discovered before. Because you get into that territory where things become automatic, where you don't really think about it. And you can now, like with cards, I can shuffle and I know where these cards are. And I can now think about anything else I want to do because my hands are on automatic. That only happens with thousands and thousands of repetitions, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it gets to the automatic, almost the subconscious level, where then you can focus on having a conversation with me and not have to focus on every little card or what's happening.
Yeah, exactly right. The playing in the driveway,
mm-hmm.
the kiki move. The kiki move is I'm driving, the guy's with me, I step back, I push off with my right foot, all of a sudden I create a space, and I shoot, and the ball's short. It hits the front of the rim and goes straight down. What happened? I was off balance. Because when you step back, you're naturally falling back, The ball's going this way, you're falling back, the ball's not going to go as far.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have to, when you jump back, you got to have to get your shoulders over your knees when you gather to shoot, and now you're going straight up. Those are the things you figure out not after 10 repetitions, not after 50, not after 100, not after 200, but after 5, 6, 700. Every day it becomes, and this is what separates the men from the boys, is some people love it. I love it. I like this. And I've been there with several things I've done, cards being one of them. And every time you do something new, a new trick or something, you go over it over and over and over and over and over again. And you go, oh, wow, that's cool. You know, I'm working on something right now called 673 King Street, which people can Google, and they'll see a version of it. There's a guy in Australia that actually invented that trick, but I've got it now I've written a poem. So this is a story that's in poetry form, a ballad about a poker game that happened. And I ended up being a poker game with a guy that I never beat. Right? And he's got a great hand. I played with 3 other people. So this whole story about this poetry story of how we ended up at this poker game, and he had 4 aces, and he said, come on, Jack, you kidding, man? You cannot beat a 4-ace hand. And I say, well, the last I checked the rules, my friend, and I quote, if you don't mind, is that any straight flush, my friend, beats 4 of any kind. I had a straight flush. So that's the poem. So you say the poem over and over again, and all of a sudden you realize you step back from the story. And because of the repetition, you can step back and you can now hear the story from the audience point of view. Right?
Yeah. That's a perfect lead in to this book here, because there's a lot of takeaways I took from this book, but one was look at it from the student's point of view, the learner's point of view. And you just said, look at it from the audience's point of view rather than the speaker's point of view. Yep. And I think that's so critical. Myself as a teacher, you have taught algebra and math. Can you explain that part there, like looking at it, not from the teacher or the coaches or even the parents' point of view, but from the person who's actually trying to learn?
The concept of the book?
Yeah, that concept, yeah.
Yeah, the concept of the book. So the book is a study on John Wooden's use, his teaching methods, which is really, according to him, the reason for his success, because he was a teacher. When you're a coach, you're a teacher. The concept of that book is that if someone hasn't learned what you're trying to teach them, then you haven't taught. You have to figure out a way that they will learn it. You have to change your ways. It's not up to the student to change. It's the teacher that changes to fit the students. Everybody knows this. But we have teachers that have excuses. Well, I got too many kids in my class. Or these kids come from really bad homes and they're not conditioned to sit in a classroom all day, right? So it's easy to make excuses. But there have been some in history that have not bought into that have found a way, and they've invented things along the way. And one of those was Marva Collins, a great teacher in Chicago, who Cicely Tyson played her in the Marva Collins story. If people like to watch a great true story about a teacher that did amazing things in Chicago, in the worst area of Chicago. The Marva Collins story is a great one. Ron Clark, the Ron Clark story. It was a true story about a white teacher coming out of the Midwest. Besides, I got to get me a challenge. So he goes into New York, uptown to a really, really tough area, and ends up arriving just when one teacher is leaving. In fact, he gets forced out by the students. He quits because of his fifth grade class that revels in getting rid of teachers. But Ron Clark did what the book said, okay? And ended up making history there. Ron Clark story. There's several like that stories of teachers that found a way. And Margaret was married, so that was tough for her. She was married, had a family to feed. Ron wasn't. Ron Clark wasn't. Easier for him. But John Wooden had to find ways to he had a team. When he got to UCLA in 1948, he inherited a basketball team. Now, UCLA was nothing then. It was a very small school. Didn't even have a gym. They had to play at some junior college. And he had a bunch of guys that were not very good. But he won the league that year, and he was ranked to come in last. But he brought in the fast break, full court, some kind of full court pressure, but mostly really fast basketball, really fast. So fast, no one on the West Coast had ever seen anything like it. Because, they didn't travel that much in those days. East Coast teams didn't go west, and vice versa. So he figured, well, we're going to teach them how to run. We'll beat people that way. That's what he did. But yeah, that's the concept of the book. And of course, there's chapters in there about building relationships with students and the pyramid of course, and the 4 laws of learning and all that. It's all there. But yeah, that's the concept of the book is something's not working. Try something else. Now, here's another thing. Coach Wooden kept notes about everything, right? So if today was a day of practice, and let's say, what are we? This is April. Well, this would have been practice 100 or 200 or something like that he would have 3-ring binders with that same practice number for last year, the year before, the year before, the year before. When in 1975, his last year, he had a 3-ring binder for every year since 1948 with all the practice plans in it and notes about this drill and that drill. And so he hated reinventing the wheel. So he'd have this practice plan and he would, adjust it for the players and all that stuff, but he kept notes, much like a recipe, I think I need a little more cornstarch in that. You write that down. And then the next time you look at it, okay, yeah, that's right. Add more cornstarch instead of discovering again that you needed more cornstarch when you should have learned it because you should have taken the notes. So yeah, that's the way he was. He kept meticulous notes about everything. And so his repetition, he would run these practices and our practices were pretty much the same all the time with very few changes, but it was a lot of playing, right? But he would perfect it. And that repetition, again, of the drills would cause him to see where changes could be made. We talked about that, right? The cards and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. And also like on the notes, I read where John Wooden had notes on a player who was maybe in a similar situation like you. And then he looked at that player and looked at what he did and said, hey, Swin, I'm going to try this because it worked with, I can't remember the name of the player, but just even looking from one player to another from over the years of what worked and what didn't work and trying things that would have a higher probability of working.
Yeah, we're talking about motivation. And, like Coach Wooden said, some players I could pat on the back and it worked. Some I had to pat a little lower, Everybody's different. And this is why he attended psychology classes at UCLA. He just sat there and listened with of course, the permission of the professor. He was always studying people, human nature. And it was not a game, but he was very serious about finding ways to get you to do what he wanted you to do. Maybe a control guy when we look back, but pretty crafty.
Yeah.
And all because, although he never said it, he wanted to win. He wanted to beat those other coaches so bad. He wanted to be the best at the top. He wanted to win championships because he was super competitive, although he never really let you know. Those are the best competitors, right? It's
Just
the dog that doesn't bark.
Yeah.
He's the biggest bite. He was that way too.
Yeah, trust me, I don't want to mess with that dog. I can see
No.
it.
Yeah.
I've heard another quote that it's like with Rudolph Dreikurs, and he states, "Never do for a child what he can do for himself." And I know you've talked about that too. And I was wondering, like in parenting, I've heard you talk about that with parenting, but if we substituted never do for a child what they should do for themselves, if we substituted that for an adult, do you think that's like a true statement for everyone? You know, never do for someone what they should do for themselves? Or do you think it's primarily more geared towards parenting and raising kids?
Yeah. We've got homeless people everywhere, right? They need a little help. They need a little help. But we shouldn't build them a house and put them in there and give them money and give them food. We might give them a place to stay and then give them an opportunity to get a job or to work somehow. But they've got to do that part themselves, or they'll never work, right? They'll never learn. They've got to have a dog in the fight. So this is the concept. When you're raising children, never do something for a child that he or she should and could do for themselves. And as a parent, I think I follow that. And as a grandparent, I really follow that. And it's so much fun. And my grandsons and granddaughter are now used to me saying, you should be figuring out, think of this and figure it out. And they'll go, oh. And that's the magical moment. And for those who study education, there is a principle that's something effect, the ZPD effect, or something like the Z, proximal development. It's teachers who give just enough information to get the kid going, oh, okay, I can take care of it from here. Just enough, oh, okay, I got it, right? Which all kids want to do. Kids do not want you to do everything for them. They just want enough information that they're missing so they can continue with what they're doing, right? Their discovery of themselves. And this is the idea. But it's very difficult to do. My wife, I'm always saying, we have a dog, and he's a little guy, and like a Havanese. And, you know, I hide snacks every night. And I hide them in different places, and sometimes they're hard. He's really good at finding it. But if it takes him about 5 minutes to find a snack, my wife will start giving him hints. I go, don't do that. Let him freaking. So if it takes too long, we'll go, Wilson, over there. And so he'll start going, good boy. And then he'll get it, right? Now he remembers the spot, and the next time he'll look there. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, it does. It does. I remember playing hide and go seek when I was a kid, and I remember one time someone hid in the shower just because you just never thought of that. You know, I mean, it's kind of, you know. And I remember like you had to give someone a hint finally because it just didn't think of that. You know, I thought behind the chair and all this. So
yeah, that's it. A hint. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, it's tempting Uh, and I think it's more tempting for women than for men to not let the kid suffer. You know, give them, tell them where it is. I see it all the time. And men, I think, are a little more like, okay, let them go a little bit longer, from my experience. But regardless, it's tough, but it's definitely worthwhile.
I want to go over some of your favorite John Wooden axioms here. I'll just read off a few, and then you can, if you have other ones you want to comment on. Or be quick, but don't hurry. Earned and deserved. Do not permit what you cannot do to interfere with what you can do. If you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail.
Yeah, preparing. We covered that one.
Yeah.
Earned and deserved. There's more to it than that. The most unfair thing to do is to treat everyone the same, because people are different. Coach wouldn't believe in that giving a student the treatment he has earned or deserves. Right? We're talking about this hint thing, right? Well, someone deserves a hint because they're struggling. Just a hint. Okay, now you get going. And earned. You know, when you're a basketball coach, there are players who obey the rules, and there are those who challenge the rules, right? Walton was one who, guess what, challenged the rules, right? Although he was always on time and practiced harder than anyone. He was a great practice player, very hard worker. But as far as some of the other rules, behavior off the court, you know, he would challenge those. That's the way he is. So, but when a player, let's say, here's an example. A coach makes a rule that if you're late to practice, then you're going to run suicides. You know, those are those sprints, right? That's punishment. Yeah. If you're late by a minute, you're going to run 10 suicides. Remember, 2 minutes is 20. That's the rule. So here we have a player that is, for a half a season, has been on time and early. And here we have a player who is late every once in a while and has to run suicides. And on this particular day today, they're both 2 minutes late. Do they both run? Coach Wooden believed in that the player who was late before runs, although he never had us run. The player who never was late has earned or deserved some credit and will not run, and probably will not be late again. So that's that quote. And it goes back to treating people differently, and you know, the concept of you haven't taught until they've learned. That everybody's different. Every student is different. You have to handle them differently. Failing prepared, preparing to fail. Oh, be quick but don't hurry. That's a real cool.
I've heard you talk about that in terms of driving.
Quickness is the most important aspect or quality that you can have as a basketball player, even more than smarts. Because without quickness, you can be as smart as you want, but you're not going to go anywhere. So he always recruited quick players. But you can be quick, but you can also hurry. You can be too quick, too fast, off balance. Hurrying, right? Now, Coach Wooden told us to hurry up and practice a lot. He was trying to get us off balance so that we can go to another level where we could be under control and be quick, but not be hurrying, right? Someone who is never plays basketball or never walks fast, for example, is all of a sudden walking fast. Well, they're out of balance probably. They've never been in that position before. So But if they practice that, they'll be very much under control as they walk fast, and then they could try to go faster. So I don't know if I'm making sense, but it's be quick, but don't hurry. You want to keep getting faster and faster at things. And we did, you know, as a team and as individuals, we were pushed to play at a pace that nobody else played at. And one of our secrets to winning championships. It just keep putting pressure on the other team. Just run, press, run. They'll break sooner or later, right? And they usually happen. So you don't want to be at a place where you hurry too much, but you want to be in a place where you're just before the hurrying, and you're able to be quick, but under control and not behind mentally.
And always expanding, like what you're just saying, they're always expanding what your realm of quickness is, you know. So maybe in practice you're getting a little bit on the edge, out of control, so that, you know, but you're pushing it so that you can get more and more, and then do that in the games. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Example, maybe what I do for Costco is I provide the signs for the buildings, right? So your big produce signs, those big headers, and all the little signs, the COVID signs, the aisle signs with 213, 214, 214, 215, all of those I provide for the building. And we get several orders in a day from people that want this, that, or maybe a custom of this, that, right? Well, I can handle about 3 of them at a time right now. Right? 3 projects that I'm working on at a time. Any more than that, and I'm going to mess up, right? I'm hurrying. And because now I'm going to hurry with all the rest of them, and I'm going to start making mistakes. I'm going to make a mistake with this one, that one, but 3 or 2, I can handle. A month from now, I may be able to handle 4. And without making a mistake. So you push yourself. So I hope that's an analogy that people can help them to understand this.
Yeah, it
don't
totally
do too much. Yeah,
it totally makes sense to me. I mean,
but try to do more.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm visualizing like a circle, and you're just expanding the circle out more, you know, and it's not going to happen overnight, but it's like practice and everything else. It's just small incremental increases. And then over a couple of years, it's a big difference.
Yeah, I think, you know, when you're running a house, right? Let's say a woman she has a job and she also runs a house. There's a lot to do. You got lunches to prepare. You got PTA meetings, possibly. You've got maybe some work from work that you're bringing home. You got dinner possibly to prepare if your husband doesn't cook. A lot of men cook. I do, but still, you've got bills to pay. You've got vacations to plan. Oh God, you got a house to clean. You got people to call. You got repairs going on. All this stuff, you know, and that's a lot of things. But those who've been at it a while, they can do all that, right? Now, what's going to suffer, of course, is the dinner. But you know what the heck. But even then, you know, you can learn to prepare some really cool stuff ahead of time and all. You know, like my wife has already prepared dinner. We have somebody coming over tonight. This stuffed mushroom appetizers are really good. I wish you had smell-o-vision. I could smell it right there. But anyway, I think we understand be quick, but don't hurry.
Yeah. I got another one for you. Is you've talked about gentleness as being one of the greatest attributes someone could have. Why do you feel that gentleness is important?
The quote is, the most powerful force in the world is gentleness. It's one of these oxymoron things that coaches love to do to screw with your head. What else did he say? Well, be quick, but don't hurry. That's kind of a thing like that. But anyway, I've got a neighbor who's probably never going to watch this. He lives on that side. We're in a condo, so everything is common ground, right? And there's a grass area next to my neighbor. It's nice and big. And, you know, I figured it belongs to everybody, and I take my dog over there and stuff. Well, you know, they've claimed that it's their property. And I thought, no way, they're under illusion. You know, this is everybody's. And I've seen people on there with their dogs, and I take my dog over there, and when they see my dog on there, I take him to the back, because, you know, dogs can kill grass, right? Well, all of a sudden, and then we had my grandkids over last weekend, and one of my grandkids was sitting on the grass, and I was talking to that neighbor, and my grandkid's sitting on the grass, and he's plucking some of the blades from the grass, and my neighbor goes, "Oh, he's pulling the grass. Oh, you know." And I'm thinking, that's not your grass. Well, so it turns out it's his grass, but so now they put, all of a sudden, 2 days ago, they put up signs: no trespassing private property, no trespassing private property. So what am I going to do? I could, you know, take some Roundup and kill his grass, which I wouldn't do that. But I could retaliate. I could never talk to him again. I could give him the cold shoulder. But what did I do? I've made some salsa. I make salsa, right? And I made my own chips. And I brought them over the next day and just said, "Here, you guys, I know you like the salsa because I made them for before. Just want you to check this out, see if you like it." That's gentleness. And that's a powerful force, because when I knocked on that door to give them the salsa, both of them came to the door, which means they were expecting a confrontation. And instead, I diffused the whole thing by, "Here's some salsa and chips, enjoy." And the subject never came up.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I really do see what you mean by that now, because I'd seen that quote, but I didn't, you know, quite understand. You know, you hear about gentle giants and all these other kind of things, you know, but I didn't know how you play that. So thank you for explaining that.
Yep.
I got one more here is, if you had a billboard and you could have anything on it, any kind of wisdom or any kind of saying you want to put on there, or picture or anything, what would you put on the billboard for people to see?
Ooh. The two most important words in life are love and balance.
All right. Thank you, Swin, for that. I have really appreciated you being here and taking the time to be part of this interview. How can people get a hold of you if they want to reach you?
I have a website. It's swinnader.me, M-E. My phone number's on there. My email's on there. They can get a hold of me that way if they want. If they need anything. If they need a magician, the tallest magician in the world. Not the best, but the tallest.
Is that your advertising slogan? The tallest?
Why not? Who knows if it's true? Probably not, but who cares?
It's marketing, right?
Yeah, marketing.
Okay. I really appreciated you being here and
Brian.
sharing your time. And thank you so much. And I wish you all the best.